Being alone on Christmas is a choice for some. For me, it was a mistake. My family's flight was canceled, leaving me in our remote farmhouse in rural Vermont. It was fine until I found the first gift. It wasn't under the tree, it was on my pillow. A single human tooth, and it was still warm. I live in a house built in 1912. It makes noises. I told myself it was the cold snapping the wood. But then I heard the music. At 2 a.m., the old record player in the attic started spinning. No power, no batteries, just the scratchy, distorted sound of "I'll Be Home for Christmas" playing at half speed. I didn't go up there. I did what any sane person would do. I locked my bedroom door and pushed the dresser in front of it. That's when I heard the whispering coming from under my bed. It wasn't words. It was the sound of someone mimicking a cat purring, a wet, rhythmic vibration that made the floorboards under my mattress shake. I jumped off the bed and backed into the corner, kitchen knife held out. "I have a gun," I lied. My voice cracked. The purring stopped. Then, a voice, thin, like dry paper tearing, replied from the shadows beneath the bedframe. "But Leo, you don't even have a cabinet for one." My blood turned to ice. It knew my name. It had been watching me long enough to know the layout of my home. I bolted for the door, shoved the dresser aside with a strength I didn't know I had, and ran for the kitchen. I needed to get to the garage, to the car. But as I passed the dining room, I saw the table. It hadn't been set when I went to sleep. Now, it was laid out for a full Christmas dinner. But the objects on the plates, it was raw meat, intricately carved into the shapes of my family members. I hid in the pantry, breathing through my sleeve to stay silent. Through the wooden slats, I saw it. It wasn't a man. It was something that had stretched itself to look like a one. It walked with a twitching, jerky motion, its head tilted at a 90-degree angle. It walked to the Christmas tree, picked up a glass ornament, and bit into it. The sound of glass shattering in its teeth was like gunshots in the quiet house. It turned toward the pantry. It didn't have eyes, just hollow, dark pits that seemed to leak the same black fluid that was staining the red suit. It started to sniff the air. "I smell adrenaline," it chirped. It sounded like a child's toy with a dying battery. I didn't wait for it to reach the door. I kicked the back of the pantry out, a weak spot leading to the crawl space, and scrambled into the freezing night. I ran 2 miles in my socks until I found a salt truck on the main road. The officers arrived 30 minutes later. They found the house empty. No meat on the table. No record player in the attic. The officers looked at me like I was having a breakdown. Until the lead detective checked the Christmas tree. He found a small hand-wrapped box tucked deep in the branches. He opened it, thinking it was a prank. Inside was my cell phone, the one I thought I had lost during the chase. He turned the screen on. There was a single video recorded while I was hiding in the pantry. The video shows the thing standing right outside the pantry door. It isn't trying to get in. It's holding my phone, filming itself. It leans into the camera and whispers, "I'm not coming for you tonight, Leo. I'm just waiting for the rest of the family to get home. More skins, more seats at the table." I was 13 the Christmas it happened. It was Christmas Eve, technically already Christmas morning, and I was still awake in the living room watching Home Alone. My parents had gone to bed hours earlier. I remember my mom telling me to turn the TV down before she closed their bedroom door. I did, or at least I thought I did. The house was quiet in that deep, late-night way, the kind where even normal sounds feel louder than they should. The Christmas tree lights were the only thing lighting the room. blinking softly, reflecting off the window. Snow was falling outside, slow and steady. I was stretched out on the couch, blanket pulled up to my chin, laughing quietly at the movie. I'd seen it 100 times, but something about watching it late at night made it feel different, safer, like noise kept the house from feeling empty. I remember thinking how weird it was that I wasn't scared being up so late, because technically, I wasn't home alone. About halfway through the movie, I paused it to go get something to drink. The moment I hit pause, the silence felt wrong. Not loud, not sudden, just noticeable. I stood in the kitchen with the fridge door open longer than I needed to, listening. I could hear the low hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the wall clock, and at first I thought I heard something else, but I told myself it was just the house settling. When I went back to the living room, I noticed something small that made my stomach tighten. The sound I'd been hearing before hadn't stopped. It was faint, slow, footsteps. I looked at the TV screen, frozen on Kevin's face, and realized the noise hadn't been coming from the movie at all. The footsteps were upstairs. They were soft, like someone walking carefully across carpet, not pacing, not rushing, just moving, step, 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 from one end of the hallway to the other. I whispered, "Dad?" without meaning to. No answer. I stood there, frozen at the bottom of the stairs, staring up into the darkness. The upstairs hallway light was off, but I could see the outline of the banister, the door frames, the shadow where my parents' bedroom was. The footsteps stopped. I waited. After a few seconds, I told myself my dad probably got up to use the bathroom. I turned the movie back on, louder this time, and sat down. I didn't laugh anymore. About 5 minutes later, I heard it again. This time, it was closer. The sound wasn't pacing anymore. It was slow, deliberate, like someone standing near the top of the stairs, shifting their weight. I checked the clock on the cable box. 2:37 a.m. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement, just silence. I stayed on the couch until the movie ended, staring at the staircase the entire time. When the credits rolled, I turned off the TV and ran upstairs, not bothering to be quiet. My parents were asleep, both of them. I shook my dad awake and asked if he'd gotten up earlier. He said no. My mom said she hadn't heard anything all night. The next morning, I checked every door and window. Nothing was unlocked. Nothing was out of place. Years later, I asked them about it again. They still swear they never woke up. What scares me isn't that I heard footsteps. It's that they sounded careful, like whatever was upstairs knew I was watching Home Alone and knew I thought I wasn't alone. The first Christmas I was ever truly home alone was the same year my parents both picked up overnight shifts. They worked at the hospital, and Christmas night paid extra. I was 16, old enough to stay by myself, and honestly, I was excited. I had the whole house, snacks, and no bedtime. Around midnight, I turned on Home Alone, not because it was funny, but because it made the house feel less empty. The living room lights were off, except for the Christmas tree and the TV glow. Outside, the street was dead quiet. No cars, no footsteps in the snow, just that hollow stillness you only get late at night on holidays. I remember thinking how different the house felt without my parents upstairs. When they were home, even asleep, there was always noise, pipes, floorboards, movement. That night, there was nothing. Halfway through the movie, the power flickered. The TV shut off instantly. The room went black except for the tree lights, which kept blinking like nothing had happened. My phone buzzed a second later. No signal. Wi-Fi gone. I laughed it off. Winter storm, bad timing. Then I heard the porch creak. At first, I thought it was snow sliding off the roof, but then it happened again, slower this time, like weight shifting on wood. I muted my phone flashlight and stood near the front door, listening. Nothing. I checked the doorbell camera feed on my phone. The app took a few seconds to load, then showed the porch. Empty. No footprints, no movement, just snow falling straight down. I went back to the couch and turned the movie on again once the TV rebooted. I turned the volume up higher than before. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The porch light was off. I never turn it off. I rewound the camera footage just to be sure. That's when I saw it. About 2 minutes before the power flickered, there was movement at the very edge of the frame, not on the porch, just beyond it. Something tall enough that only part of it showed. It didn't step into view. It didn't knock. It just stood there, watching. I locked the front door, even though it already was, and checked every window in the house, all locked, all untouched. When I came back to the living room, the movie had reached the part where Kevin realizes he's actually home alone. I turned it off. The house felt too quiet again, like it was listening. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from the doorbell camera. Motion detected. I opened the app with shaking hands. The porch was still empty, but this time the porch light was on. I didn't turn it on. When my parents got home just before dawn, I was sitting on the couch, fully dressed, lights on, TV off. They asked why I looked exhausted. I told them I didn't sleep. I didn't tell them why. Because the scariest part wasn't that someone might have tried to break in. It's that they never did. They just wanted me to know I was home alone.